Alright, so welcome back everybody. Thought I would try something new here, do a little voiceover as I work in the background. It's actually about 11 p.m. when I'm starting this process. We're cooking a brisket on the Masterbuilt Gravity series smoker in this episode, and let's talk about that. You can see what I have right there is a 15.5 pound select cut brisket. Select is the cheapest cut of all. I walked in my local grocery store and seen this for $60 and thought that's awesome for a 15.5 pound brisket. The internet has went absolutely crazy with everybody doing prime or wagyu meat cuts, and let's just face it, that's far too expensive for the average person. I'm not paying that kind of money. So let's see if we can make a select cut brisket taste good. So what I'm doing right here is cutting any fat off that's over a 1/4 inch thick or any hard fat. A lot of people waste a lot of time trimming too. I've watched a ton of videos. I'm just going after it. Over a 1/4 inch thick, or if it's hard where I feel that it won't render down, we're cutting that off, getting it out of the way. Very simple. Now I'm using mustard here for a binder. You can use oil or whatever you'd like. You're not going to taste the mustard. I can't stress that enough, but it's an excellent cheap binder to rub on, and then your seasonings will stick right here. And as far as seasonings go, we're going to keep things nice and simple. I believe beef really, pepper complements it well. So I'm putting on a thick coating of coarse ground pepper. This is Montreal steak seasoning. It has coarse salt in it. Salt is also needed for beef. And this Montreal steak seasoning is like the perfect seasoning for steaks or any kind of beef, in my opinion. And it has more coarse ground pepper in it too, a little bit of garlic. Excellent flavor. So now you can see I have a decent coat on there. We're going to add a little more pepper. You can get as crazy as you want. I see some people coat theirs in so much pepper, the brisket itself is like jet black when they're all done. But I don't really feel like you can do too much pepper on a huge piece of meat like this. Can't really over season it. So I'm going to open up the hopper here. This is my Masterbuilt Gravity 800. You can see I have Kingsford Original Charcoal. Mixed in with that is some oak wood. Down here at the bottom where the ash pan is, I'm going to take some seasoned and dried chunks of oak wood right here that we harvested off the property and put that down there for a little extra smoke. The coals ignite right above it. You can see I'm putting a fire starter in right there beneath the coals and lighting that. And there's enough heat in that firebox that'll ignite that wood down there for some extra smoky flavor, which I want. So we'll let that fire starter burn for about 2 minutes until I see a couple of coals ignite and get glowing red. And then you can close everything up, kick the fan on, and it takes care of the rest. It'll get the coals going. So it's 11 p.m. right now. I'm putting my trim brisket on. My grill has a hot spot, so where my hand is right now, that's the hot spot. So I'm putting a thicker piece of meat there, putting the flat on the other end, which is just a few degrees cooler. We're going to stick a meat probe in, and I am looking for 160 degrees while we're in the unwrapped portion, but I want to make sure I get that meat probe right in the middle of that brisket. So I got the smoker set to 225 degrees. You can see there's my meat temperature right there, and we are going to start a timer and track this whole process, see how long it takes. The other beautiful thing about that Masterbuilt smoker is there's my phone. The smoker connects to Wi-Fi. Now while I'm laying in the bed, because this is an overnight cook, I can wake up, check my meat probe, and I can set the temp right here for a custom temperature, which is going to be 160 degrees, and I can be notified. I can bump my grill up and down. It is such an awesome feature to be able to control all this from your phone, especially for an overnight cook like this. So it's next morning just before daylight. You can see it's cracking there. We're going to take a look. Looks like it's been 8.5 hours at 225 degrees. And let's see what the meat temperature shows, 145. So we're still not there yet. I'm going to add a little more of the oak so we can get a little more smoky flavor. Let's check the top too. Been an 8.5 hour cook. Now my hopper was charcoal mixed with wood. You can see we're almost burnt out. I probably have maybe another hour, hour and a half that it would maintain temperature. So you're looking at about 10 hours at the temperature I was running on a full hopper. Add a little more charcoal, top this thing off. All right, so the moment has arrived. It has been, let's see here, 11 hours and 49 minutes. This is insane. I've never cooked nothing that's taken this long. And we finally are at that 160-degree mark. We're gonna pull this off, wrap it in some foil. We're not doing butcher's paper, because again, I'm trying to make this to where most people can relate. I'm not going out and buy a whole bunch of butcher's paper to do this once or twice a year. I think 10 foil will be just fine. Oh my goodness, y'all, look at the bark. This is the first time looking at this thing. Look at that. The fat's rendering out. Looks so stinking good. So much bark. Pull our probe out. Let's get this over on the foil. And let's get it broke down. Alright, so I'm going to get this wrapped nice and tight. Alright, back on the smoker we go. Put my temp probe back in. Ooh, it's already kind of sliding in. And we're going to run this up to 200 plus degrees. Most importantly, we're going to come back out here and probe it with a meat probe. As soon as it's sliding in and out in several different spots, letting me know the connective tissues are broken, broken completely down. That's what we're looking for, and then we'll pull it off. This is probably gonna take a few more hours. I am gonna go ahead and bump the smoker up to 275 to slowly increase this process. We're done with the smoke, just running straight charcoal right now. I don't wanna go any higher than 275, I don't wanna rush this, but it's such a huge chunk of meat. I do wanna go ahead and start getting it toward that 200-degree range. This is typically what I do with butts and a few other things too, to kind of get them up to that breakdown point. All right, so we just hit 204 degrees, and that has been 14 hours and 30 minutes. My longest cook of my life. Most importantly, just make sure it's probe tender. Oh my goodness, that is just sliding right in. Temperature is accurate, 204. It's only 206 in the thin part. That's interesting. I would have thought that would have been a whole lot higher. Oh wow, that's sliding in like butter. We're good. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is take this brisket off and put it in a cooler that I have over here ready to go. I'm gonna take a towel and put it over the top of it for some extra insulation. And that's where it's gonna sit for the next 2+ hours. I'm a huge believer in letting the meat rest, and we'll pull it out and see what it looks like. All right, and for the people that are curious, let's quickly check out where we're at. More than halfway down. So that entire 14-hour cook used about 1.5 hoppers full. Now that's more than Masterbuilt says you to use, but keep in mind I'm running much higher than the low temperatures. I think they rate this hopper at lasting like 16 hours, but I'm sure that's on the minimum temperature of 170 degrees. So this was a good learning experience as well. To do a full brisket, expect about 1.5 bags. This is 16-pound bags now of charcoal, but I was also mixed in with wood, so I used less charcoal than that. All right, so moment of truth. Believe it or not, I have let this rest in the cooler for 4 hours. Now, I caution you on doing that. You can get away with that with a large piece of meat. Rule of thumb is you don't want any meat to sit out below 140 degrees for extended period of time because, well, botulism and other things can form. I just checked this, still 155 degrees, even though I've let it rest in the cooler for 4 hours. The longer you let it rest, the better I always feel like your meat is. It continues to cook, especially once you pull it off for that first hour or two, and it's just going to continue to pull the juices back in and break down those connective tissues. By the way, I forgot to mention, this is my first ever brisket. Let's see how this turns out. All right, so for starters, it's got a lot of jiggle and flop to it, so it must be broke down okay. Ton of bark on the outside. Let me clean my hands up here. That outside looks amazing. So check that out, a lot of color. We had a lot of pepper on there, a lot of bark. When I just grabbed it, I pushed some back. I already see smoke all in there underneath all that seasoning. Let's just cut it right down the middle and check this out. All right, moment of truth. Did I do good or did I do bad? Oh, what a beautiful, and I mean beautiful smoke ring. It's probably a bit warm to be grabbing by hand, but we're gonna do it anyways. Oh, it's just falling apart. Oh, look at that beautiful smoke ring. And watch this. Look at all the juices pouring out of that. Oh my goodness. Now this flat side right here, I can tell it's not quite as tender, still full of juice though. That's just what you would expect from a thinner side versus this thick point. All right, I know we're losing light out here quick. Man, this has been a super long cook. So from start to finish, I put it on 11 p.m. last night. Took, what was it, about 14 and a half hours for the full cook, and then let it sit another 4 hours plus prep time last night, about 30 minutes. 19 total hours invested in one piece of meat. Now we're gonna get a ton of meals out of this. We're gonna freeze a lot of it, make some brisket sandwiches, some brisket mac and cheese, and a few other things down the road. So I guess it was worth it if it tastes good. Let's cut us a nice slice right here out of the middle. All right, so everybody always does the bend test. Oh my goodness. I mean, it's just falling apart floppy. Check this out. Pull you a nice piece off. I gotta try out my first ever cooked at home brisket. Oh my word, that is so good. Pull apart, so fatty, so juicy. I can taste all the pepper, taste a ton of pepper. And it's just what you need on meat like this. Oh wow. Y'all, I just don't see the desire to spend all the money on the prime cuts or this Wagyu and the craziness that the internet world doing right now, when I can take a $60 select brisket, cook it like this, and it turns out wonderful. So good. Well, hopefully y'all enjoyed this. Hopefully this inspires you to get out and cook one of these. And if you have one of these Masterbuilts, it's so easy. You can literally lay in bed. I woke up 3 a.m. this morning, checked everything from my phone. You can make adjustments, check your meat probe temperature. Only thing you need to come outside for is if you want to throw a little extra wood down in the ash pan to get it extra smoky, which I did. Thank y'all so much for watching. We'll catch you on the next one. Man, oh man, this is so good. So good.